you want me to handle this? I got this. Welcome back to Unveiling the Truth. This is Nefer. This is Nellie. I'm RT, a special guest on today's podcast, and we're here to talk to you about masculinity and femininity. What does society think, and what does the Bible think? Let's get right on into it. Nefer, what are your opening points?
Start it! We have to end it there. So before we get started, just like we start off everything that is good and holy, Nefertiti is going to lead us off in our Father, because we're talking about, males, masculine figure, so it's only good to call upon our Father.
Yeah. Alright, so, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Alright, so thank you for that, Nefer.
Welcome.
So like we said, we have my brother here as a special guest today. He's going to talk about masculinity in the eyes of the church and in the eyes of society, and what it actually is to be true men, and how we find that equal balance in today's society, because we know how important it is to have a good father figure in the family. So he's going to come here and talk about that, and he teaches catechism and stuff like that. He actually studied a lot about this stuff, so that's why he's here today.
Yeah.
So RT, so what would you say in society, what do you think a man is in society? Like, whether it's peer pressured or just normal, like, natural stuff, what do you think it is to be a man?
So that is an interesting question, because what it is to be a man has shifted a lot since, say, like the 1950s and beyond that. It used to be suck it up and, deal with it sort of beat for the man to have. But now we see a lot of, weird stuff. I'm just going to leave it at weird stuff. But we do see a lot of men being able to show more emotions. However, it's shifted, definitely. It used to be the head of a household, the provider, the protector.
Right.
But now it's more of society, and there's been a shift recently to see men as, like, sometimes as far down as trash.
Yeah,
really.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, why do you think that maybe, like, that kind of change in society, why do you think that there's such an animosity towards it?
Yeah, because we know in the Bible when he sent Adam and Eve out, he made Adam the protector for a reason. He made him to, like, be the protector and the guider of the family and the provider. So, like, and that kind of, like you said, transition, or was, like, there to, like, the 1950s, and then that sort of transitioned out of that.
Well, so in the 1950s, when you look contextually, domestic abuse wasn't really a thing. You get your rule of thumb because you could beat your wife and kids if the rod was no bigger than your thumb. So that was interesting. But with that, it was kind of like you had responsibility over this family, so you have this measure of authority. So obviously they took that seriously. Obviously abuse isn't a good thing. It never is, but that's how it was, right? Mm-hmm. I can't go back in time and smack somebody and say that's a bad thing, but that's how it was. But like I said, it was they had that responsibility, but they had that measure of authority. Now, the men is seen as having that responsibility, but they no longer have as much authority, or that measure, that level of authority, or I can't speak today, apparently, but they don't have that level of authority over them, because there's a shift in, you can't tell me what to do, I'm a strong, independent woman. Mm-hmm. Well, now, I'm responsible for something, but I can't keep it safe, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, if I were to tell you, don't go in a dark alley in New York in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That's common sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I can't tell you to do that, so guess who's going to do that? Guess what's going to happen?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's due to that lack of having that authority over that sense of responsibility that's kind of led to this shift.
Well, yeah, because obviously it's important to have both, like, men and women in the house, like, raise the person, and the man is supposed to be, like, the protector and the provider, so when that shift does get taken away, and when, like, more obligations are on the woman, and then the man gets overlooked, that causes then a lot of problems, like depression on the men, and then not seen as their importance, and then there's not that good structure. And then, like you said, they cry about men not protecting them, but then they don't want men to protect them. They say that they're independent, sort of a thing. But, like, in the eyes, like, what would you say in the eyes of the church that is a good man? Because you know that there has to be that equal balance of, like, masculine, but then also, like, feminine and nurturing side. That's why God intended. That's why we have priests.
So this is a very good question. What a man is in the eyes of the church has not changed in 2,000 plus years. It's always been protector, nurturer, teacher, provider. It's always been that sort of thing. And I like to look at biblical examples. Men in the Bible, look at Samson, killed thousands of Philistines with a donkey jawbone. That's pretty cool. And then I also like to look at women in the Bible as well. If you look at Judges 4:20, and I suck with names, I cannot remember her name. Pardon? Deborah? Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
Seems like
Yeah, one of the judges is Deborah?
Yeah. Seems like a very Deborah thing to do.
Deborah.
There's a war raging on, and they're at a stalemate, and she decides, you know what? My husband isn't spending enough time with me. So she goes over to the enemy lines, gets the king drunk, dances for him till he falls asleep, grabs a tent stake, drives it through his head so far it sticks his head to the ground, and then parades it back, thus ending the war.
It was
So,
Deborah the other
you know.
way. But yeah, in the book of Judges, yeah, you're right.
So I don't... Was it Deborah? I
I
don't
think
think it
it
was.
I don't know. Well, she was one of the female judges, so you mentioned judges.
Yeah, but...
And
I
she's
like
one
to-
of the more hardcore ones, too, in the Bible.
Yeah, I like to look at that, though, because it shows that while men were always pinned as the protectors and the providers and the nurturers, it's not 50-50 split. Men protect, women stay home and do dishes. It's always been joined, men and women. In fact, God took Adam's rib. He didn't take a piece of his skull for her to be ahead of him, didn't take a piece of his foot for her to be below him, took a piece of his rib for her to be his equal.
Right next to his heart.
Right next to his
Yeah.
heart to be loved, and protects all your vital organs to be protected.
Yeah. I think I find it interesting how you mentioned how we still have that expectation in today's society of men, like, being responsible for the family, being the protector. How do you think that society manages to kind of compromise that? Because they're like, on the one hand, they want to have this expectation. On the other hand, they're lording it like away from men. You know,
Yeah,
they're taking
exactly.
everything away from
Like
men.
like they tell men that they need to be more emotional, but then also society tells them you can't cry. Like you shouldn't be
Yeah.
crying. You need to be, you know, dominant and stuff like that.
Or like they'll say, you know, like men are toxic and toxic masculinity and stuff, and it's like, oh, you know, you need to pay welfare, you need to pay child support and whatever
Oh yeah.
for like families and stuff.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of those things. There's terrible men, there's terrible women out there. The feminist movement was started to give people equal rights. It wasn't started specifically for females, which is something that blew my mind. It was started to give everybody equal rights. It's just equal footing on everything. The thing is, it was started for equality of opportunity. So you have the same opportunities. Now it's shifted to equality of outcome. But they kind of have way too much time to sit down and think, so they make up their own problems. And that's what I can attribute a lot of it to, is if a guy, like the bare minimum thing, if you look on TikTok or Instagram and somebody flew across the Atlantic Ocean to see his lady, that's a big step, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody says, I'm happy for my husband who did this, they say that's literally the bare minimum.
Yeah.
That's not the bare minimum. The bare minimum is, show up, breathe, do the dishes occasionally, I don't know. But that would be more bare minimum. So it's a lot of sitting down, having way too much time on your hands, and suddenly realizing that your movement isn't as strong as it was, or it's not as needed in the same way as it was. So you try to shift it and look through a different lens to make it, instead of focusing on areas that it needs help.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think there's also like a good balance between having like an affectionate, like emotional guy to like help somebody and then being too emotional, or do you think that there's a line there?
So there definitely is a line. We are logical creatures, but we're also emotional creatures. And since those are both traits that God gave us, then we need to find a balance between them, and we need to accept that we have those, and that's what God gave. Because God doesn't make mistakes, so there was a reason he gave them to you.
Like there's a reason he made guys more like headstrong and then women more emotional, sort of a thing?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at differences, what's cool is if you look at physical differences as well and how it relates to the success of the humans as a species. Men can see motion better and they have better depth perception. Women can see a wider range of colors and have better hot and cold tolerances. This is cool because when you look at when we were out, like after we were cast out in the garden, we were all hunter-gatherers. Men were the hunters, women were usually the gatherers. It worked out in the tribe because women had children. They couldn't go out hunting because it would risk the child, right? Men didn't have to carry those children around. They probably be a better idea because they couldn't nurse him or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they went out doing the hunting. So specifically, it makes sense that the men have movement-based vision like a T-Rex, and they can see depth perception because they'd have to be going after that. It would make more sense that women would see a brighter range of colors because they'd have to see like berries and fruits and stuff that have more nutrition for it. And the brighter the color is, the more nutrition something usually has.
Right, right.
So it's pretty cool the differences that we have.
Well, and like sometimes the differences are better because I know like one of the reasons specifically that men are the priests and like women aren't allowed is also not just because, you know, they're figures of Christ and they need to reflect, none of the, you know, the apostles were female and stuff like that, and they need to imitate Jesus, but also because when you think about it, women, and it's not anything bad, it's just facts, like women do think things over emotionally and they overthink things, so in certain situations like exorcism, they wouldn't be able to handle that as good as a man. Like, because there was a study done that this actual Catholic priest was telling me, and that this woman had to make a choice between saving herself and like a few other people on top, or saving this other person like who was like sinking in a submarine, and she couldn't make that choice, it overpowered her, whereas a man would be able to make, okay, this choice or that choice. And it's nothing bad, it's just the way we're built differently. Men are straightforward, and women, they have like, what is it, they have like more wires connecting their brains, and it makes them like overthink things more.
It's the box theory. All right, so everybody has boxes inside their head. A man has a one-way trip, right? So you want to say, I want to go to the lake today. A man's brain would be food, get dressed, go to lake. One-way path. A woman's brain is, I wonder what I should wear. Ooh, clothes. Ooh, shoes. Ooh, this. Ooh, that. Ooh, that. Daytime activities. Back to clothes, right? And it bounces all around until finally, I'm ready to go to the lake.
Yeah.
And then on the road trip there, ooh, pretty. Ooh, sign. Ooh, this. Ooh, that.
And it's nothing bad, it's just the way we work.
It's the way that...
And that was God's
work.
intentions to balance out. They need the children who are being raised need the nurturing, you know, emotional side of the mother, and they also need the provider and the protector and the guider of the family from the dad.
Yeah. So why would you say, or what would you say are like the negative impacts of like the way that society has looked at masculinity now compared to back then?
And how are you pressured by it?
Well, one grim topic, when you look at suicide by gender, males have a significantly more amount of suicides. So, and it ties into society. It will tell you a lot of times, you know, you can have these emotions, just don't feel them, or just don't show it, or straight up, you're not allowed to have emotions, or the phrase man up, suck it up. And man up means stop whining. Well, if you look at the opposite end, woman up, that's like be a girl boss, right?
Yeah.
It's seen as that. Like, so there's obviously this flip side of the coin. There's a clear heads and tails. It's clear difference. And I think negatively it impacts just because people need to feel those emotions, right? If something traumatic happens to you, you need to be able to tell somebody, because that your brain will shut down if it goes. There's a thing called Cooper's color code. It will go what's called black, and you are unable to process, unable to fight. You are out of everything. On the flip side, I think it does have its benefits. With men are generally seen as more stoic, so a lot of times they'll get picked for jobs that you need to be more logical in.
Oh, okay.
Whether they are or not, a certain guy, certain girl is or not, flip of a coin, people are raised differently, but usually it works out that way. So there are advantages, there's a lot of disadvantages. Usually the advantages, you get more money. The disadvantages, you end up dying quicker. It's that cut and dry, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
So then
I told you it was very good. My apologies.
So then
Apologies.
how would you think that like the society will like pressure you, do you think? Because they do change like what they want a lot from people.
Oh, yeah.
So, me personally, I don't really get pressured that much because I just don't have time for it. And I'm just too dumb to take hints, all right? So if somebody, like there was one time I was sitting in Oceanside, California, eating at my favorite diner. And I was eating my eggs and my bacon, and delicious. Well, this female with blue hair comes up. I say female loosely because she had like 5 chins. All of them had hair on them. Like, I don't know what it was. Had a dress on. Like, ew. Anyway, comes up and says, "Good morning, male. How are you, male? Blah, 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 male." And would ask me a bunch of questions. Wouldn't let me answer, but would always finish off with male, and was super condescending. And finally, she says, "Let me ask you a question. as if she's not been asking me questions this whole time. I'm like, okay, shoot. How does it feel to be a male? And I looked at her. My eggs were getting cold. My bacon was cold. I was upset, right?
Yeah.
Ruined my breakfast. I said, well, it's probably better than being a blue-haired female. And she hits the most... just storms off. Don't know what possessed her to come up there. I don't know why I'm telling this story. There was a question there somewhere. I already forgot what the question was.
How you're pressured.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the
Pressured by
question.
blue-haired
Here's the
crazies.
tie-in. Here's the tie-in. First, let me take a sip of my Big K brand Dr. K.
Oh.
Refreshing.
I'm so dead.
Bro, I am so dead. Literally deceased. So, me personally, I don't really have time to get offended or pressured by what they say. But going back to the groom topic earlier, a lot of people feel that pressure of, you will be the sole provider. If it doesn't work out in a relationship, you had better fix it. If you cannot fix it, then you will be paying for it the rest of your life. That's kind of what the male side of a relationship is, if you look at it. Women usually don't pay alimony. 90% of the time, women get the kids without, even if they're abusive, even if it's shown that, they will usually end up with the kids, right? And if it comes down to, like, the male's the only person to get the kids, a lot of times they'll go to the grandparents. Like, those pressures are there, and a lot of people feel the effects a lot worse than I do. Myself, I don't really have a lot of pressures because I just, like I said, I'm too dumb to take a hint, right? So I just don't have time to really care about that sort of stuff. But a lot of people, it really gets to them over time being told they're trash, they're trash, they're trash. You start believing it over and over and over and over again.
And so then they start acting like trash.
And so they start acting like trash. And I'm not saying every guy was told he was trash and he starts acting like it, so bam, woman's fault. Yeah, heck him. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying there are people who are just jerks out there.
Yeah.
It's not a man issue. It's not a woman issue. It's a people issue. They're just jerks. Yeah. But there's a lot of guys that were nice at one point. Super sweet, super nice, super caring. Was told they were trash. Was told all this bad condescending stuff. And now suddenly they're jerks. They don't trust women. They don't trust other people. Like it's pretty bad.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how you mentioned that's like androgynous type like blue hair chick because it's interesting and I think it was I don't remember who it was but someone who went on Pints of the Quietness with Matt Fradd was basically talking about how the whole transgender issue, how it's like, you know, women feel like they need to be stronger, they're told that they need to be stronger, and men, like you said, are constantly being told they're trash and they're like the scum of the earth. And so, you know, that kind of starts with the whole, like, gender fluidity thing.
Yeah, I'm still confused on this whole movement, because it's like, women, we need to be more like men. Men, you are trash.
Yeah.
You want to be like trash? Go for it, I guess. Like, hey, all the more power to you.
Well, and see, that's why I think the New Age, like you said, the first wave of feminism, they did something. They got somewhere. But this New Age feminism, it's like, women have more rights than men now, like you said. In, like, abuse cases and abortion and, like, the pain and child services. Yeah, Amber Heard.
Oh, yeah, that was a trial for the memes, let me tell you.
Oh, the memes are fire.
Did you see the one... You see the psychologist speaker who was absolutely goofy. He had his hair all weird and stuff like that. Somebody dubbed his voice with Doofenshmirtz's voice. And it's just him behind the stand going, well, I'm a key witness here, Your Honor. Do I have to answer that, Your Honor? Yeah, I'm a key witness. I'm a psychologist, Your Honor.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
That's insane.
But anyway, what I was saying, which is like, so I think that the push for like the New Age feminism is like useless now. Maybe in other countries where like women actually are abused and treated like trash, like in Iraq and Iran and all those places. But here in America, we have more rights than men, and I feel like men should be more appreciated for what they do and the things that they accomplish and all that stuff, instead of being put down and told, you know, you need to stop being so manly and masculine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree to an extent. I wouldn't say it's completely useless, because it is kind of a deal for if women are in an abusive situation, a lot of times they don't want to seek help because they feel like that's the only place they belong. They're damaged goods.
Yeah.
It is kind of like an idea that they can go and they don't have to be treated like this. So I wouldn't say it's completely useless. I know, hot take. I also don't feel like men need to be more appreciated, just appreciated.
Okay.
So if you work, like last week, I worked 50-something hours last week. I don't need to be praised for that. That's my job. I just work,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But, if I were to, let's say I were married, right? Come home after work in that work week, and let's say the sink is full and there's no supper or something like that. This is going to sound super Stone Age of me, right? Super non-progressive. Oh my goodness.
Super machista.
Let's say I come home hungry, right? I come home hungry. House is a mess. No dinner, no nothing. I work that week and I see the person I'd be married to sitting on a couch watching TV, driving up utilities, right? And let's say this was a problem. That would obviously upset me because I am going out. I am the sole provider for this house. I would like it's like a contract, right? It's a vow. It's about love, right? Marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a contract. I will provide. I would like you to be the heart of the household.
Mm-hmm.
I will be doing this. I would like you to be doing this.
Oh yeah.
And if there's no reason, say like perfect health, right? Obviously, if she's sick, you got to be nice to her.
Yeah.
So I hear. But
I knew there was a punchline.
I knew there was a punchline. But if there's no reason, just be sitting there and then walking in, that makes you feel unappreciated. That's where you start feeling like your value goes down and you're only good for bringing in money. You're not actually, a person, right? By the same token, women also need to be appreciated. Say I come home from there, like hectic work week, the house is immaculate. Dinner's on the table and it's hot, right? I don't care how much I worked. I still need to say thank you for that. That's still something she did for me because I said I'd do this. She said she'd do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe appreciation should go both ways. It's not just men need to be more appreciated. It's we need to appreciate each other and love each other as people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, if you stop seeing somebody else as a woman and stop seeing someone as a man and just they're people,
Yeah, exactly.
you can solve a lot of problems. Obviously, there's things that women do better than men. There's things that men do better than women.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean treat this person like a woman, treat them like a human being.
Yeah.
Right.
Radical idea, I know.
Like what we were talking about earlier, the value of a human person doesn't, change with how they're conceived or what sex they are or anything.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that would you say because obviously there has to be that, a good man is, a provider but also clings to his faith and also is emotional and nurturing when he needs to be. Like kind of you look at priests. Priests are like the perfect example of men. It's like I think would you say that a man becomes more of a man when he puts his faith first?
I would say yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Because that faith is what holds you guys together. There's the little pyramid theory, like when people are married, they have a pyramid, right? Man, woman, God.
Mm-hmm.
The closer you get to God on a pyramid, the top, the closer you two get together.
Oh, that's a
So,
good way, yeah.
because it's an angle.
Yeah.
It's not some sort of ladder that you climb together. You start out here without God. With God, the more you get to know Him, the closer you get, the closer you become.
Mm-hmm.
Until eventually you both are in heaven and then you got to deal with her for eternity. Great. I had to deal with the mother-in-law for 80 years and now I got to deal with her for eternity. Man! Where's that lake of beer that I was told would be here? I need something stouter than that.
Well, and then when you think about it in the marriage, you also have something keeping you together because you do have that covenant with yourself and God. Like, it's not just a paper, You actually have that covenant with God in your marriage. And I feel like that helps a lot of marriages, too. Gets them through the marriages, the faith they have with God.
Yeah, so with that, yes, you have your spoken, you have your written agreement, right? And you have that covenant. But God is holding you accountable for what you say, and He knows what you meant in your heart of hearts, that you actually gave a yes, or you actually gave a no, and the other person actually gave a yes, a very clear yes in their heart. So He will hold you to that standard. So, yeah, I agree. There is something more personable about saying something in faith or in face-to-face versus like a text or written down. I can text you like, let's say we're playing Apex Legends or something, right? I could text you, LOL, get good, scrub, right? But I would not say that to your face because then you'd be like, oh my, well, I guess I technically just did, but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's some things you would feel completely comfortable saying with behind the keyboard, but not face to face. One good example of this, and I'm not Don't go, oh, I'm so sorry. I recently went through a breakup. So they did not say one word to me to my face, but they said a bunch of hateful and slanderous things behind a keyboard. If I went to their house, these particular people are not, they tend to jump, and I did not hold them accountable once for their words. If I would have, it would have been over in 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
They jumped the fence so much, you'd swear they're Olympic athletes. But they said all this stuff behind a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
When I actually talked to somebody, my ex called me, right? Because we were supposed to meet and talk things out, sort of deal. It was her idea, right? She called me. She decided she couldn't meet, but suddenly her tone changed from all this hurtful and slanderous stuff to being a lot nicer. So there's something more personable about saying something to God and to the other person versus just writing it down.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. And also when it comes to like divorce and stuff too, you can't just like divorce and be like, oh, I don't want to live with this person anymore, because there's more of that like deep connection and covenant
We've
with you
already
guys.
had that kind of intimacy to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting to think about, even like dating, you know?
Yeah.
Like being able to hide behind something and then being able to like actually, you know, own up to it.
And there's even a Bible verse. I forget what the verse is. I usually have it on fleek, but it is, the wicked flee though no one is chasing them. The righteous are bold as a lion. So if you know what you're saying is in line with the faith and is good, bold as a lion. If you know that you're not saying what's in line with the faith, you're gonna be flaky. You're gonna be more scared to say it. And you're going to have to, well, technically, I never said. Technically, if you have to rely on a technicality, it's a lie. Let's just put it out there. If you have to rely technically, my aunt's first cousin, third removed, twice over, did this, so that's a lie, essentially.
So I have one last big question. And this comes being, you know, that you are a guy, and that, you know, the society does see, like, you are more visual. Like, women are more... Women are more into...
Men are more physical. Gets hit by a woman.
Hey, by his sister. That's different. No, so being that women are more...
They are being abused.
No, being...
They have a gun under the table.
I'm an only child for a reason, guys.
No, so...
Oh, let me switch. Tap me out.
So being that men are more visual beings, and women are more physical, intimate beings.
They're more physical.
And being that you're more visual beings, so society sees you as, like, you know, noticing things and paying attention, things like that. How would you say, as a man, and in a relationship, does chastity and purity get you? Because as a man, you know how they're always just like, you know, men are dogs, you know, that's all they care about. You wear a bikini, they'll disrespect you. So tell me what, like, your take on that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that question kind of went...
It's basically talking about, like...
That was not that was not the direction I was expecting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like chastity and purity in the eyes of a man.
Yeah,
You know,
and in a relationship.
Yeah,
and
So-
do you guys actually really like girls who, like, dance all crazily and stuff like that and gives themselves over easily?
Boys like girls who dance crazy for TikTok.
Oh, okay.
Men like real women. I can't riz, guys. No, so men are much more visually, like, they're much more visual. So like I said...
Visually inclined.
So like I said, with the best way I've heard it is, if you saw a woman jogging topless down Main Street, there would be fatal car accidents, right? If a man jogged topless down Main Street, most people would be like, put your shirt on, creep. You're not even that hot.
Yeah.
Right? So men are a lot more ready to go based on what they see and what they hear, while women is more of what they feel, how they're feeling emotionally, what their sense of touch is feeling. Like, they have to touch everything, you know.
Oh, I like
That
this
sort of
fabric.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you think I'm
Is
keeping
it
my hands
soft on the?
here?
It's soft on the. It's
Or-
soft
or-
on the underside.
Hey, yo, or like Allie when she's shopping for yarn. Oh, this feels so squeezy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, funny story. So I was taking Allie Christmas shopping, right?
Okay.
We were in Walmart. We were passing the yarn aisle. She did exactly that. Just stops. I'm pushing a grocery cart full. It's the Christmas rush. I'm grumpy to begin with, and she's following right behind me. And I take like 5 steps, and I just, and I look back. She's like, "It's just Christmas." I would have kept going if I didn't hear that. And she's got like her full hand in one roll of yarn, and she's grabbing the other thing.
Oh dear.
I'd
I was-
probably do that too. No lie.
I was very concerned for her mental health at that point. I was like, man, this Christmas shopping broke her. It's kind of a rough transition. Somebody who never celebrated Christmas goes to the Heinens, where Christmas is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and see, like, another thing is that I heard that story where there was this girl, there were all these guys in this restaurant, and this girl comes in and she had like on like one of those like spaghetti straps and then like crop tops and like really short skirt and all that stuff, and she just kind of had like the attitude. So she walks in and the other guys start catcalling at her, you know, sort of a thing. And then so she comes and she leaves. Well, this is a true story, and this guy watched it. Well, this girl comes in and she's dressed like normal. She has a long skirt on and she acts like a lady. And she comes in and she sits down and the guys say nothing. But when she leaves, they open up the door for her. So do you really think that like the way that the girls act also like impairs what the guys think?
Yes, how you act is a lot of times how you're going to be treated. This going to the men are dogs. The bad men are like dogs. They go on to, and I have to make a clear line. The bad men are like dogs.
The boys are like dogs.
They act on impulse, right?
Okay.
So if you dangle a piece of ham in front of a dog's mouth and you take it away and take it away, eventually he's going to get riled up. He's going to take you down. He's going to get that ham, right?
Yeah.
The good men are not reliant on that, but you don't. It's a mixed bag. Same thing with women. Like the bad ones, they act on impulse. They were told they can act on impulse and that was acceptable. It's not. But it's a mixed bag with people, right? You don't know which one you're going to get. So if you act like a hoodlum, you're probably going to get treated like a hoodlum. Like, let's say I take away your not Big K brand Dr. K and put it over here. And now you're thirsty for the rest of the podcast, right? And you do a lot of talking, like in general and on the podcast as well. Not a lot of sense making, but a lot of talking. So how should I expect to be treated if I do mean stuff to you all the time?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I should be expected to be treated with a level of hostility. And as grush as it is to say this, or crash as it is to say this, if you present yourself and treat other people like you are one of those like dress in a spaghetti top and you're let's go behind the dumpster at Wendy's, right? Sort of like wild thing. You should expect to be treated like a wild thing because that's every indicator that you are giving people is that you're this wild thing. On the flip side, the lady who dressed like a lady, she was treating everybody with respect and she was treating herself with dignity. Part of treating everybody is you too. So if you treat yourself with that level of disrespect, people are going to give you that level of disrespect. Okay. She's treating herself with that level of respect and they know immediately
don't mess with her.
She is somebody that I can respect. She's going to respect me. She respects herself.
Yeah.
So they show her that level of respect by getting the door for her, by doing that sort of stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
so does that tie into the purity and chastity thing in a relationship?
Yeah, so if you are respectful in a relationship, you should expect to be shown that level of respect. If you are a hoodlum in a relationship, you're going to be treated like a hoodlum, and that's not really the most stable ground to build a relationship on.
And which kind of a woman would you trust more in a relationship?
I would trust somebody who is not talking to other guys. Well, let's get that on. The ones that act and give themselves respect, and then that translates to giving me respect, is the ones that I would trust more. The people who are out going crazy till 1 a.m, that level, they're not respecting themselves. That level of disrespect towards themselves is going to
reflect on your relationship.
Go to me.
Okay.
As well. It's going to boil over. You got a cup of respect for yourself. You pour a bunch of respect in there, it's going to overflow. It's going to drench everybody. Everybody gets respect. You pour disrespect into that cup and it overflows, everybody's going to get wet. Everybody's going to have disrespect. Right? So you can expect it to overflow to you.
Okay, so self-respect also reflects on the respect that you'll get in your relationship.
And then there's a saying like respect yourself, then respect other people. I'm going to say no. Yes, respect yourself. But it's not a priority. You shouldn't prioritize who to respect. Everybody. So everybody, Jesus died for, even the homeless guy. And he didn't die for all of us. He died for you specifically. He died for you specifically. He died for me specifically. Even Max, right there behind the camera. The camera can't see him because he's behind it. He died for him specifically. Allie, I have bad news for you. Specifically. And that's significant because if you try to hand out a group of people cookies, right? Somebody's going to get 2 cookies. Somebody's not going to get any cookies, right? If he was trying to hand out this grace to somebody, someone's getting two cups of grace.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting no cups of grace, right? No, he did it specifically for you because if I hand you 1 cookie, you get that 1 cookie. You look me in the eyes as you get this chocolate cookie. I don't know why I gave you that stare. Eat the cookie.
You don't have to tell me twice, man.
Yeah, same. I see a cookie, I'm like,
So basically what it boils down to then, faith, and then respecting yourself, and then respect for the others around you is what is a good man is. With a good balance of masculine and feminine or nurturing side, and then also not being pressured by society and doing your own thing is what makes a good man, is what you'd say.
yeah.
I literally just summed it all up in one
I'm
sentence.
sorry, I stopped. Yeah, I was giving some really deep philosophical answers, and you just come through with the, well, if you want the footnotes version, skip to minutes 5:32 seconds on this podcast. That's where you get the sum notes of what this idiot just said.
Oh, okay. Oh, I actually did have a question for you since you were talking about the whole respect thing. Do you think, because you said there are like, there's bad men and then there's like good men and stuff. I think sometimes in today's society, like what the dominant narrative is that there's more bad men, than good men. And do you think if a woman would, she treats herself with respect, she presents herself with what is acceptable and respectable to her, do you think even those men would kind of reciprocate on that? Or like is that innate, or do you think that society, we've just gone too far that that's kind of been destroyed in a certain way?
I would say it really depends on the person, because if somebody's going to assault somebody, it doesn't matter how they dress, they're still going to do it, right? Somebody going to break into a house, it doesn't matter how many locks. If they're motivated enough, it'll happen. And I believe a lot of situations arise because somebody put themselves in an unfortunate situation, right? There's opportunity there. But for the majority, if somebody is geared towards right down the middle, right, they tend to give into impulses, but they also can control themselves.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody's like that and a lady walks in dressed like a lady, he's not going to jump down to impulses.
Right.
Right? He is going to lean on treating her like a lady, and that's how he's going to see her.
And it's not their fault, right? Because it's just the way their brain works.
It isn't, but it is. It's not. So it's nobody's fault to feel like they're in love with somebody, to feel like they want a physical relation with somebody, trying to keep it PG here, or that they're physically attracted. It's no one's fault for feeling that, because everybody, especially guys, has that little click in their brain. Guys fall in love really quickly. Oh. Or they can determine.
Twice.
Yeah, they can determine if they want to date somebody or have some sort of relationship with somebody really quickly. It's like 14 seconds, right? It's not bad to feel that. What is bad is whether or not you act on it. If you physically want to be with this person, so you go up and she says no, and you say, well, too bad, that's bad.
Yeah.
That is 100% their fault. I don't care how your brain is wired, that's bad.
Yeah.
Right? If you go up to that same scenario, she says no, and you say, okay, I respect it, and then you leave, that's good. Right? It doesn't matter how your brain is wired. Good job. Don't be weird.
Don't be weird.
It's too late for you, but don't be weird. Bro, I'm so dead.
I'm so dead.
I think Nellie's so dead right now.
I'm like...
But to a certain extent, no, it's not their fault for how they feel. It's their fault for how they act.
Right, okay. So in closing, what would you... So after all we've said together, kind of like piece together exactly what a good man should be. Now that we've talked about the way society views it and the way that we individually view it, what do you think a good man should be?
A good man should be drinking Big K brand Dr. K.
I like how you're pointing to where it says beer and then you keep saying big.
A good man should be drinking beer. Like a beer. Let's go. A good man should accept the way he feels, should be loving, should be caring, should be cautious on how he acts on those feelings, and be logical about it. A good woman should accept the way she feels, be loving, be caring, but also be careful.
Okay.
Mhm.
See how I said the same thing?
Yeah.
Because it's not a mutually exclusive thing. It's not men, women. It's more of men and women.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And not in the way of, all right, everybody be transgender now. No, that's a whole different topic, right?
That's a whole nother.
But what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman are more entwined than you would think.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's why
instance-
God made it to be compatible with each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're
Well,
like pieces
fun fact.
complete
You know
each
what?
other.
You know what compatible means?
Huh.
It means to suffer with
Oh, you're kidding.
in Latin.
Oh.
So nobody. Let me give you a hint.
Oh, hey! Mr. Kemp prayed our Father in Latin, but knows that off the top of his head.
Hey, I can tell you the origin of man and woman too.
Okay.
It's Old English, right?
What is it? What is it?
But anyway, okay. So, Old English, it used to be with and where.
Mhm.
Where was man, with was woman, right? And it just meant a male of the human species, a
Uh-huh.
female of the human species. And we see where in like werewolf and,
Yeah.
were-toad, whatever. And with, we see it in like wife and stuff like
yeah.
that. We do see it. But somewhere down the line, they added, and historians aren't sure where, they added the phrase man. So,
Mhm.
where man, with man. And it kind of elaborated where was a male of the human species. Man meant human, like a
Yeah.
human person. And that was the deal. It didn't have any gender specific meaning to it. It was just human, right?
Mhm.
Or Homo sapien,
Okay.
right? It literally just meant like that. And with men, a woman of, or a female of the Homo sapien species.
Yeah.
So later on, they shortened it down where they took out and just did man, and they left with men, which later went down, evolved as languages do every 200 years, to woman.
Mhm.
So it's not a conjugation on woe to man or womb man, it is with man, or a female of the human species.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
I can
know.
tell
That's
you,
kind of a cool way to put it because it like singles them out. Like
Yeah, it
women
was
of the
just-
human species. That's kind of cool.
it was, has long hair, has a beard. It was that.
No, back to suffering together with compatible.
Compatible means to suffer with. So,
Mhm.
spoiler alert: you and your boyfriend are not compatible, right? You're a female or a male. I don't know who's watching this podcast right now. You are not compatible with your partner. You are two separate sides of the coin. You are not going to suddenly become the same side of the coin. You are not compatible. It means to suffer with, because you will suffer life's hardships and each other's hardships, because you will become a hardship for the other person at one point, right? But you will suffer that together.
I like that.
Big brain knowledge here.
Yeah.
What a
There you
big
go.
brain.
You
So-
don't want to know what gymnasium means, though. And
I-
I will not be elaborating.
Oh. I guess we're gonna leave you guys on a cliffhanger. What, a gymnasium?
He's already.
I don't think he's gonna tell us. Okay.
So.
So thank you, RT. Thank you, RT. Thank you, RT.
Help me, I'm being domestically abused.
Just go SOS.
And this is what it's not to be a woman, is hitting people.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, Nellie, you need to embrace your femininity.
Oh,
Come
you're
on.
right,
Yeah,
man.
stop hitting
No,
people.
that's a good. Hey, that's
That's a
a good
man's
point.
job.
There's masculine and there's masculine and feminine in both figures. I've always been like, my love language is like banging. I'm like, hey, I love you so much, bam.
That's
No.
true. You should have seen all the time she was like going like this today.
That goes back to women are very...
Touchy.
Oh, you're so soft! I'm so dead. bro.
Okay. Well, thank you to RT for coming on and
Can I do the outro?
Yes.
Quick, switch me spots. Switch me spots. Switch me
Oh
spots.
dear.
I'm scared now.
I got my big
Well,
beer can.
thank you. I'm trying to speak here.
I'm abused over here.
Well, thank you to RT for coming out onto the show, and we appreciate
Is that
you
what I sound
watching.
like?
That's exactly what you sound like. And we appreciate you watching. And remember, unveil the truth, one podcast at a time.
That's what we said.
Captain Kirk out. Cut the camera, Max. Cut the camera. I just gave the intro. Cut the, what are you doing?
Intro? Yeah, what you-
So apparently we're still rolling.
Tell them the platforms.
Keep that fire
Go ahead and
Make sure to check us out on other platforms in the link tree down below. And if you guys like more special guests like RT or someone else to come on, please let us know.
Yep.
I make this show funny.
Anyway, thank you guys so much
And
for
kind of
watching.
psychotic.
We hope you enjoyed. God bless you and keep that fire burning.
I got too much now.
Oh.
Yeah.